I, 33F, am about 3 months pregnant after 3 years of trying, multiple rounds of IVF, and what felt like an eternity of heartache. We told my parents a month ago in private because they've been super supportive throughout this whole roller coaster. There was no big reveal, no social media post, just quiet joy between us. Besides, I didn't want to tell too many people outside of mine and my husband's parents because I wanted to be further along in my pregnancy before committing to a huge announcement. Fast forward to last weekend, my sister, let's call her Emily, 29F, had her engagement party. Emily's always been a lot. She loves being the center of attention. Growing up, she pulled stunts left and right to stay in the spotlight. Family holidays? Emily's in the spotlight. Friends' birthdays? Somehow, she makes herself the center of attention. I've spent my whole life letting her have her way because, honestly, I just don't have the energy to fight her. Honestly, I expected some minor drama at the party, but I had no intention of making it about me. My plan was to stay in the background, support Emily, and leave early since the exhaustion has been hitting me hard lately. I even wore something loose to avoid questions. I wasn't going to breathe a word about the pregnancy to anyone. Everything was going fine until my mom pulled me aside during the party. She just wanted to check on how I was feeling since the pregnancy had been rough so far. I've suffered the worst of all the early symptoms of pregnancy, so I was glad that I could talk about it with my mom, who would have understood my suffering better than anyone else. We stepped away from the guests to chat in a quiet corner, but unfortunately, Emily overheard us. And that's when things went completely off the rails. Emily went from 0 to 100 in the blink of an eye. She barged into the conversation, fuming, and accused me of trying to steal her thunder. I was so confused. I tried explaining that I wasn't announcing anything. I told her I had told Mom and Dad weeks ago, and we were just having a private conversation. But Emily wasn't having any of it. She said I was being selfish and that I couldn't stand to let her have one day to herself. She made a huge scene right there, and people started noticing. I was mortified. I kept telling her I didn't mean for any of this to happen, but it was like she wasn't even listening. She was convinced I had come to her party just to ruin her moment. And because Emily can never just let things go, she kept pushing. She said I always had to make things about me, that I was jealous of her, and that this was my typical behavior. At that point, I was so overwhelmed I wanted to leave. But I didn't have to because Emily stormed off. I only stayed at the party because my mom convinced me to be there to support my sister. I also figured that if I gave Emily some time to cool down, I could approach her again and properly explain what had happened. Once again, I didn't have to do that. Emily suddenly approached me with a weird grin on her face. She said she wanted to show me something in the basement. It was something about a keepsake from our childhood that she thought I'd appreciate. Honestly, I didn't think much of it at the time. I figured that this was maybe her way of smoothing things over. I followed her downstairs, but as soon as I stepped into the basement, she slammed the door shut and locked it. I froze. I heard her laughing through the door. She said that it was payback for trying to make her engagement party about me. At first, I thought she was joking, so I knocked and told her to open the door. But she didn't. She just kept giggling and walked away, leaving me trapped down there. At that moment, panic hit me hard. It was cold and dark, and I wasn't feeling great to begin with. The stress and nausea kicked in full force. I started to pace back and forth because my mind was racing with other ways I could possibly leave the basement. I noticed that there was a window that I could potentially get out of. I needed a little boost to get my entire body out, so I placed a box that I found in the basement under the window, so I could climb onto it. Unfortunately, in my state of panic, I didn't realize how much I was shaking and how dizzy I was feeling. My foot slipped while I was halfway up on the box, and I fell, landing hard on my side and stomach. The pain that shot through me was terrifying. I lay there for a moment, gasping, trying to assess if the baby was okay. My heart was racing like crazy. I started crying because I was terrified and so frustrated with my situation. My mind wouldn't stop racing with thoughts about the worst possible scenarios, like, what if this fall caused a miscarriage? What if something happened to my baby because of Emily's stupid joke? I tried pulling myself together and slowly managed to sit myself in a comfortable position while still on the floor. I don't know how long I was down there, but it felt like forever. No one came looking for me for what was probably at least an hour. I sat on the cold floor, hugged my knees, and tried my best to not spiral into a full-blown panic attack. Eventually, I heard footsteps and my husband's voice calling my name from the other side of the door. He was frantic, and when I banged weakly on the door, he unlocked it and practically yanked me out of there. He took one look at me and said we needed to leave immediately. I was in so much pain and so scared that I didn't argue. We rushed to the ER, and I spent the whole car ride trying not to cry or freak out. All I could think was if this was it. What if I lost the baby because my sister couldn't handle someone else getting attention for 5 minutes? At the hospital, they did an ultrasound. I was holding my breath the entire time and I barely kept everything together then too. Thankfully, the baby was okay. But the doctor said it was a close call. If I'd fallen harder, the outcome could have been much worse. I felt both relieved and emotionally drained. My husband was furious, though, and told me he wasn't going to let this slide. He immediately called my parents and informed them about what had happened. We had left the party in such a hurry that no one was really given an explanation. My husband wanted my parents to at the very least sternly talk to Emily, and also to tell her that we would no longer be seeing her until I had the baby. Trust me, I am beyond grateful that I have a husband who has my back so fiercely. We ended up staying at the ER for a few hours until I was stable and ready to go home. By the time we got back to our place, the party was long over, and my phone was blowing up with messages from my mom and dad. I didn't answer any of them at first. I just wanted to sleep and forget that the entire day had even happened. My husband assured them that I was okay over text and shut his phone off as well. The next morning, my parents called again, and that's when I found out what had happened after we left. Apparently, after we rushed off to the ER, my parents were very confused about what had happened. They tried to get Emily to tell them what had happened because apparently, my husband had caused a small scene when he started asking Emily about where I was. When my husband called my parents while I was at the hospital and told them what happened, they were furious. They immediately confronted Emily about locking me in the basement in front of everyone present at that party. My mom tried to downplay it by calling it a harmless prank that went too far, but my dad wasn't having it. He was furious that Emily would do something so reckless, especially after knowing everything that I had gone through to get pregnant. He told Emily that enough was enough, and right then and there, he made a huge announcement. My parents were pulling all the funding for Emily's wedding and honeymoon. My parents had always told my sister and me that they would love to be a part of all of our big moments in life and that one of their ways of being a part of those moments was through contributing financially towards it. My parents helped me fund my wedding and they intended to do the same for Emily. Unfortunately, Emily never thought that my parents would ever take back their promise. Emily lost it. She started crying in front of everyone. She kept repeating that I had ruined her life. She called me evil and accused me of doing all of this on purpose. My parents told me they had never seen her act that unhinged before, but I wasn't surprised. Emily always reacted badly when things didn't go her way. She begged my parents to reconsider, but my dad stood his ground. Since then, I've been flooded with texts and calls from Emily and my mom. My mom keeps asking me to talk to my dad and convince him to change his mind, but I told her I'm done. Emily crossed a line, and I'm not going to sweep it under the rug just to keep the peace. Emily, of course, has been blowing up my phone with every insult under the sun. She's blaming me for everything. She's saying that if I had just stayed quiet, none of this would have happened. She insists I've destroyed her life and that her fiancé is starting to doubt if he even wants to marry her. Part of me feels guilty, but the other part knows this isn't my fault. Still, I do feel bad, and even though my dad and my husband have both assured me that I'm not in the wrong, I can't help but think that I must be at some fault. So, Ida for ruining my sister's engagement and also ruining her wedding and honeymoon? Update 1. I didn't expect my post to blow up the way it did. First of all, thank you so much for all the support and comments on my original post. I've been reading through them, and it's been a huge help to know I'm not crazy for feeling the way I do. A lot of people asked if my parents ever favored me or if Emily and I had a history of bad blood, so let me clear that up before I update you guys on what has happened since I last posted here. To be honest, I wouldn't say my parents played favorites. My parents were actually pretty fair growing up. They tried their best to treat us equally. Emily only got a little more attention because she was the baby of the family, but I guess that little extra attention turned her into the kind of person who craves attention and makes everything about herself. She was the kid who threw tantrums if someone else got the spotlight, regardless of the event. And instead of setting boundaries with her, my parents mostly gave in just to keep the peace. So while I wouldn't call it favoritism, Emily definitely got away with a lot more than I ever did. I've spent most of my life trying to keep things smooth between us. I learned to just let her have her way because it was easier than fighting. Besides, I'm the older sister, and I always felt like it was my job to be the mature one and not rock the boat. But no matter how hard I tried, Emily would find a way to push me to my limit. Every family event turned into a balancing act where I tried my best to avoid stepping on her toes so she wouldn't explode. I guess that's part of why she feels so entitled now. Now, on to the update everyone's been waiting for. After my parents canceled funding for Emily's wedding, she completely lost it. The next day, she sent me this long text accusing me of ruining her life and stealing her moment. She didn't apologize for locking me in the basement, by the way. Instead, she doubled down, saying it was just a joke that I took too seriously. When I didn't respond, she went full attack mode. Emily started telling everyone in the family that I faked the whole pregnancy scare for attention. After my husband rushed me to the ER that day, word got out pretty quickly among the rest of our family that I was pregnant, which is another outcome I absolutely did not want. Other than fielding my sister's crazy texts and calls, I've also had to deal with the rest of my family reaching out to me. Initially, it was to congratulate me and ask me how I was doing. Then it slowly became bizarre. A lot of them started asking me how I could fake my pregnancy just to bring my sister down. I had no idea what was going on. Turned out, Emily began spreading this lie that I planned to get hurt just to ruin her engagement party. She literally went around telling everyone in our family that I was some evil mastermind who tried to sabotage her life. I've had several relatives reach out because they were confused and wondering if the pregnancy was even real, which was beyond hurtful. One cousin even asked if I was making up the pregnancy just to punish Emily. It was insane. To make things even worse, my mom is trying to stay neutral in all of this, which honestly feels like betrayal. She keeps saying that Emily's just stressed out about the wedding and that I need to be the bigger person. But how am I supposed to be the bigger person when my own sister is spreading lies about me during one of the happiest times in my life? It's exhausting. I tried to argue with my mom, but I was getting nowhere, so I decided to distance myself from her too. About 2 weeks after Emily's engagement party, she showed up at my house. She was banging on my door and demanding that I fix this because I ruined everything. My husband told me not to open the door, but I stupidly thought maybe she was coming to apologize. Spoiler alert, she wasn't. The second I let her in, she started screaming at me about how I'd ruined her life and how everything was falling apart because of me. She even said her fiancé's parents were reconsidering the whole wedding because they think she's immature, and she blames me for that too. When I tried to explain that none of this was my fault and that she was the one who locked me in a basement, she completely snapped. Emily stormed into my living room, saw the ultrasound photo I had framed on the coffee table, and broke the frame before ripping the ultrasounds to shreds. I was frozen. I couldn't believe she would do something so cruel, especially after everything that had happened. My husband was livid and told her to leave, but before she stormed out, she shouted that she hoped I lost the baby so she could have her life back. I've never seen that kind of rage in her before, and it terrified me. After she left, I just broke down. I couldn't stop crying for hours. It felt like everything had hit me all at once, being locked in the basement, almost losing the baby, and then realizing my sister had no limits to her cruelty. I kept replaying her words in my head, and I couldn't understand how someone could wish that on their own family. My husband wants to go no contact with her immediately, and honestly, I don't know if I can argue with him. I know I should cut her off, but part of me still feels guilty, like I'm somehow to blame for all of this. My mom keeps telling me that Emily is just in a bad place and that I should try to forgive her, but how do you forgive someone for wishing harm on your child? To make things even more complicated, Emily's fiancé reached out to me privately. He apologized for Emily's behavior at the party and said he's been really struggling with her crazy behavior. He mentioned that he's not sure if he can go through with the wedding anymore because he's starting to see a side of her he didn't know existed. I didn't know what to say to him. It's heartbreaking because I never wanted to be involved in their relationship drama, but now it feels like I'm stuck in the middle. At this point, I'm not sure what to do. Part of me wants to forgive Emily for the sake of my mother, but another part of me is terrified that she'll just keep doing more damage. I don't know if she's capable of changing. I don't want to spend my pregnancy constantly looking over my shoulder and wondering what she'll do next. For now, I'm focusing on my health and my baby. My husband has been incredibly supportive, and we're just trying to keep the stress as low as possible. But I can't shake the feeling that things with Emily are far from over. Knowing her, she's not going to go down without causing more drama. I'll keep you all posted if anything else happens. At this point, I'm just hoping for a little peace, but I'm not holding my breath. Update 2. Hi. It's been a month since I last posted on here, but I've been very busy. A lot has happened and I've finally gotten some free time to myself, so I thought I'd update you guys. Okay, let me begin from where I last stopped. After Emily ripped my ultrasounds and stormed off, I was inconsolable for a whole week. I guess Emily told her fiancé about what she'd done, which was why he contacted me about being unsure about marrying her. They'd apparently begun to also get into a lot of fights. Her fiancé reached out to me to explain everything that happened. Apparently, he tried to assure her that they didn't need my parents' money to go through with the wedding because the both of them had saved up more than enough, but my sister refused to listen. She insisted on ruining my life the way I had apparently ruined hers. All day and all night, The only thing she would talk about was how she could get back at me. It terrified her fiancé. Eventually, it got to him, and he broke the news to her that he was leaving her. He even told her that she was a lunatic and that she was the only reason that he was leaving her. My sister was an absolute wreck. She wouldn't stop calling and texting me with threats because I was ruining her life again. I ignored it until I couldn't stand it and blocked her number. That didn't stop her. She began spamming my husband's phone with texts meant for me. She even asked my husband how he could stand to be married to me when all I cared about was myself. She also did not hold back on her insults towards my unborn child. I had such a strong urge to pick the phone up and yell profanities at her, but I knew that would only cause me and my baby more distress. So I had my husband block her number as well. It was peaceful for a few days until I got a call from my mom. My mom told me that the day before she called me, my sister had come over. She was hysterical and wouldn't stop crying. She kept ranting and raving about how all I had to do was keep my mouth shut about my pregnancy during her pregnancy. She wouldn't stop talking about how I had ruined every aspect of her life by simply existing. According to her, she's had to settle for a lot of things because I somehow always got the best of things. I have no idea where she got that idea from, especially considering how many of my special events I've had to give up so she could have her moment in the spotlight. Anyway, after listening to my sister rant about how I was the reason for every bad thing that ever happened to her, my mom was somehow hit with clarity. She realized how entitled and insane Emily was behaving. I guess my mom got an actual insight into how my sister's mind was working, and none of it aligned with my mom's belief that my sister was just having a bad day. My mom eventually had enough of my sister's rant and called my sister out on her insanity. My sister did not take that well at all. If anything, it made her break down even worse. The only person she thought was on her side turned against her, and that made her even angrier. She apparently got up from the couch where they were talking and ran upstairs to my bedroom. She then began to wreck my room. She threw things off of the shelves, broke every single trophy I ever won, and tore up all my certificates. That really set my mom off. My mom is a very sentimental person, so when my sister and I moved out, she made sure that she left our bedrooms the way they were. The only thing she did to our rooms was make sure it was clean. Our rooms were reminders to my mom that we were still always going to be there near her, so for Emily to completely tear it apart was like her ruining all of my mom's happiest moments at once. My mom was beyond heartbroken and furious. She yelled for my sister to leave, and my sister smiled at my mom smugly before leaving. Yeah, my mom isn't my sister's biggest fan right now. She called me to apologize for constantly making excuses for my sister. She told me that I had every right to feel what I felt because what Emily did was horrible. Honestly, I never thought that my mom would actually come around to see how horrible Emily was, so hearing her apologize was beyond shocking. I was grateful though, because I suddenly realized just how much guilt I had been freed of. I was so relieved that my mom was on my side and not insisting that I keep the peace with Emily. My parents have now gone low contact with Emily, and they've told her that too. My mom has been inconsolable, but I've done my best to be there for her. My husband and I spent a lot of time helping my mom piece my room back together. My dad is officially furious with Emily. He's mentioned on several occasions how he does not want to see her for a really long while. The last I heard from Emily's fiancé, he'd left her finally. He lost a lot of money because he had to break the lease on their apartment, but he's happier right now. I don't know where Emily is, and honestly, I couldn't care less about where she is or what she's doing. I just want her far away from me, at least until I've given birth. But, that's it for now. I don't think anything more dramatic could happen now, but I guess only time will tell. If I do come back to make another update, I hope it's only after I've given birth. Until then, thank you to everyone who has read my posts and has showered me with well wishes. Update 3. Hey everyone, I'm back with what I hope will be the final update. Things have been wild, but I'm happy to report that I've officially given birth to a beautiful, healthy baby boy. He's the light of our lives, and honestly, having him here has put so much into perspective. But of course, Emily just couldn't let me have this moment without causing one last bit of chaos. For the first few weeks after I gave birth, things were surprisingly quiet. Emily stayed away, and I thought maybe, just maybe, she was finally going to leave me alone. My husband and I were adjusting to life with a newborn, and it felt like we could actually breathe for the first time in months. My parents had been wonderful. They made sure to check in on us regularly, and my mom even brought over meals to help out. It was peaceful, and I felt so relieved, especially because my parents made sure to not mention Emily and the distress she caused us. But then one time when my parents were visiting, my mom mentioned in passing that Emily had been asking a lot about the baby. Apparently, Emily wanted to know when she could come to see my son. My mom was cautious because she knew how unstable Emily had been, but she still felt guilty about Emily being left out. My dad, on the other hand, was completely against the idea of her coming near us. He didn't trust her, and neither did I, but I also didn't want to stir up more drama, so I told my mom I'd think about it. Then, a week later, I got an anonymous text message. It was from an unknown number, but after reading the message, I immediately knew who it was. Emily. The message was full of insults. She called me a selfish cow who was trying to erase her from the family by having a baby first. She went on and on about how my son didn't deserve to have the life I was giving him and how it should have been her with the first grandchild. I was stunned. After all this time, she was still so bitter and consumed by jealousy. The final straw came when my husband's mom called us one morning, completely frantic. Someone had sent her a letter, yes, a physical letter, that said that I was an unfit mother. It was full of lies about how I was neglecting my baby, that I was emotionally unstable, and even vaguely hinted that I was abusive. The letter was anonymous, but I had my mother-in-law send me a picture of the letter, and sure enough, it was Emily's handwriting. My poor mother-in-law didn't believe a word in the letter but was horrified that someone knew my husband and me enough to be so specific with their insults against us. She was also disgusted with those accusations and was worried that somebody was after us. That was it for me. I couldn't take it anymore. Emily had crossed every possible line, and I couldn't allow her to keep affecting my life and my family. After discussing it with my husband, we made the decision to move back to his home state. We had talked about it before, but this time, it felt like the only way to truly escape her insanity. We made sure to not tell many people where in his hometown we were moving, just so Emily would have absolutely no way of getting to us. We packed up our house over the next few weeks and made the big move. My parents were supportive of our decision, even though it meant we wouldn't be close to them anymore. My dad was still furious with Emily, and my mom was heartbroken that her daughter's relationship had come to this, but they understood that we needed to do what was best for us and our son. As for Emily, well, she's finally facing some consequences. After her ex-fiancé had left her, she apparently began to stalk him and harass him both in person and over the phone. Her ex-fiancé filed a restraining order against her, which she almost immediately violated. So she's dealing with the repercussions of that. My parents have cut off almost all contact with her at this point, and honestly, I'm relieved. I don't know where she is now, and I'm okay with that. She needs help, but it's not my responsibility to fix her. Since the move, life has been so much better. My husband and I are settling into our new home, and we're surrounded by his family, who have been nothing but supportive. I feel like we can finally focus on raising our son in a calm, loving environment without the constant drama that Emily brought into our lives. I can't say that I'll ever fully understand why Emily acted the way she did, but I've come to terms with the fact that she's no longer a part of my life. And that's okay. I need to protect my peace, my marriage, and my child. And now, for the first time in what feels like forever, I finally have that peace. Thank you to everyone who's followed this insane journey with me. Your support has meant more than you know, and I'm so glad that I have a happy ending to share.